Hi, how are you? I'm William Clayton, the founder of Clayton Trial Lawyers. This is my 4th of July message to my friends, clients, and colleagues. When I was growing up, my mother spoke fondly of her family's connection to America's rich history. She talked about a distant relative who was in the military fighting for the Revolution. This relative was present for the surrender of General Cornwallis to General Washington at Trenton, New Jersey. And so my mother, with Scandinavian roots, became a daughter of the American Revolution. My father, William F. Clayton, on the other hand, was the strong, quiet, and silent type with me about his military service. In some ways, you could say he saved it for my 2 older sons, now in their early 30s. It is from my sons, not to me directly, that my father shared his wartime experiences and fears, and about his strong belief of the need to fight for freedom and to be ready to fight again to be able to keep it. And he loved 4th of July celebrations. My father was living with his family in Santa Monica, California, when on December 7, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. The very next day, he enlisted in the Air Force. He thought he was going to fight the Japanese in Asia, but instead, he was shipped to the European theater. He became an officer in the Air Force, and his wartime pictures show he was based in Africa, to Italy, to England for D-Day, and then into France, to a final stop at an air base near Berlin. I found it interesting from his military history and service that my father always kept his bayonet and his medals for valor. His photographs that were also there show him apparently close to General Eisenhower, whether on a subway in London or at an air base in England, a staging ground perhaps for D-Day. My son Alex, a partner in Maritech in San Francisco, framed a speech my father gave, which Alex gifted to me on my birthday, which is just around the corner. I was almost a 4th of July baby. The speech is in my office to this day. And here is my father's speech. America so loved the world that she gave her beloved sons to the cause of freedom. Greater love hath no man or country than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. We are here today in memory of those comrades who have been killed on the battlefields all over the world. We pay tribute this day to the dead of several wars: Civil War, Spanish-American, World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. In a little more than 100 years, this country has been called upon to beat our swords into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks. And then we were called upon to reverse the program and make our plowshares and pruning hooks into swords and spears again. You mothers, wives, and families who gave your sons, daughters, husbands, and wives to the cause in which pitted America against the forces of tyranny and slavery, have asked on many occasions, was this sacrifice too great to pay? As individual sacrifices and sacrifices by a country, we had to give the best of our manhood to the cause of war. And many times I imagine you've asked yourselves, what have those who have died accomplished? In the Civil War, among other things, slavery was abolished. In the Spanish-American War, we prevented a monarchy from coming close to our shores and prevented their attempt to dominate our offshore islands. We sent our boys into a tropical climate where battle and disease took a tremendous toll. In World War I, in Germany, with the Kaiser and the Prussian military clique, who were determined to overrun and crush all of Europe and, if possible, to control the world. The men who fought in the battles of Argonne and Saint-Michel drove them back, and eventually with our valiant and gallant soldiers, Germany was beaten, and small countries, such as Belgium and Netherlands, which had been overrun, were free. Many of you in this generation thought that would be the last sacrifice you'd be called upon to make, that America would not leave these shores again in the future. But tragically, that was not the case. For in less than 25 years, a new Germany, dedicated to Nazism and led by Adolf Hitler, vowed to conquer the world and started out by taking one small country after another. Once again, Americans were asked to come to the rescue and stop Hitler and his mass murder-minded campaign government. Once again, America so loved the world that she sent her beloved sons to stop tyranny and aggression. This was a worldwide conflict, and eventually our men were forced to fight not only in Europe, but in Asia and Africa. And Hitler and Japan were united to attempt to crush America. Over 1 million men were killed, mutilated, and others wounded. Cities were destroyed. And after 5 unbelievable bloody years, the war came to a halt, and Germany, Italy, and Japan were forced to surrender unconditionally. And for a short time, smaller countries were allowed to determine their own way of government. In 1950, just 5 short years later, Americans were thrown into the Korean War to stop communism on the Asian front. And once again, the sacrifice of loved ones were great. What has been the purpose for which we have fought? Has this giving of our manhood been in vain and without reason? Our country and its people have taken to the battlefields to ensure that other countries could determine their own political system without interference from aggressors. As long as we have remained free, other countries, many of them small, have looked to us to preserve the peace and their borders so that their freedom would not be challenged because some country had more force and power. This is a day of individual memories and collective memories. It has special meaning because these memories of the departed men remind all of America of the terrible price of vigilance. The price that was paid in human life has been great and unbelievable at times. But America so loved the world, she could not stand by idly and see other human beings being beaten, tortured, and suffering. And as long as America is free and strong, and in spite of the sacrifices, we will never stand by to see these things occur in the world. Our country will always stand for principles of justice and freedom for all men and women. As long as the aggressors know this, they will always be hesitant before they attempt to overcome others weaker than they. Just recently, the president of the Young Republic of Indonesia, Dr. Sukarno, made this speech in front of Congress. He said, "The destruction of this world is not the prerogative of man. It may be that war is a natural function of man, and that his combative feelings prevent this living in peace with his neighbors. That may be so, but I do not believe it," he said. "Let there be no mistake about it. After an atomic war, there will be no resurrection. We will support every action taken by you or the responsible leaders of any country to remove the shadow of the atom bomb from this world. May God give men and women the will to avert calamity. We hope, as the president of Indonesia does, that God will give us the will to avert this calamity. But days such as these, which remind us of those whom we honor, must and should be continued, because as long as we remember those who have helped keep us free, although threatened with extinction, America will never give in, but will stand for free and strong against all of our enemies." Today, we salute those war dead not only by this day, but by permanent monuments such as honor rolls I've seen in cities throughout our state and country. It shows that people in these communities recognize the sacrifices that were made, and they remind us that we must continually be alerted so that this land we love will never lose the glory, and that the dead we now honor gave to it. It calls for an effort by each parent to remind their children, not only by observances such as this, but by other reminders. That which they take for granted was earned for them by the blood of those whose memories we honor today, and that freedom we enjoy was given by them. Should we ever forget them, 4th of July ceremonies will become useless forms, and America will have lost her right to be the protector of others, and will have then given her sons in vain and paid a price as a country that was without the realm of reason. Godspeed, happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day, and God bless America.